You ready to go?
Here, let's do it.
It's our first ever emergency podcast.
Emergency is the right word.
Saw a
for
movie and we were like, we have to talk about.
100%.
And that movie was Call Me by Your Talented Mr. Ripley, starring starring creepy little guy Barry Keoghan and large man Jacob Elordi.
That's so funny that you brought up Talented Mr. Ripley.
Oh, everyone brought it up. Every review,
Right.
every review I read, every podcast I listened to, Emerald Fennell herself brought it up.
Yeah. Mom, I want Talented Mr. Ripley. No, son, we have Talented Mr. Ripley at home.
We're talking about the film Saltburn. Directed by
Emerald
Fennell. From 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Starring Barry Keoghan, Jacob Elordi, Farley. That's how I'm going to call him. Farley.
Yeah, Farley.
Farley. Pike.
Incredible
Grant.
Mr. Guy.
Grant.
Mr. E. Grant himself.
And then a young lady who's quite good who I'd never seen before.
What an experience. A strange experience. There were moments of, it was like all 5 stages of grief.
Yeah, certainly I went through all of them at the end of that movie.
Yeah.
I was like, there was a couple times where I was furrowing my brow being like, is this movie still going?
Oh, man.
First it started with all the Christmas ads at the beginning where I was like, oh, really? Another Hyundai ad. We're gonna do another Hyundai ad.
7th.
That's crazy.
It was a lot.
It's wild that we're doing this same Coca-Cola ad. We're doing 2 of the same Coca-Cola ads.
Kind of enough Coca for Christmas.
It's very crazy.
Yeah.
And then the movie got me with it's like I was like, this is still going. Hey, right at the end here, you're still hanging on.
I know.
And then at the end, they're
boy.
like, hey, in case you missed it, this is what happened. I know what happened. I was there. I watched a movie.
Yeah. And it's not like they saved it for the end. They started about 40 minutes before the movie could end, be like, hey guys, here's everything that happened. It was like Scooby-Doo.
Can I read a quote?
Yeah.
I was originally like not going to. I read some reviews just to get a vibe for how people are feeling, and a lot of people feel very similar to how we feel.
Yeah.
But I read the review on Vulture by Alison Wilmore. Mm-hmm. And it's a very good review. And I was like, I mean, if you don't want to listen to this podcast, go read that because it's like kind of exactly how I feel about it.
Yeah.
But she says something. She says she compares a lot to Promising Young Woman, which we're going to talk about. But she says, so in comparison, she's like, Saltburn is a much sillier and emptier film. And yet, its vibes are strong enough to sustain it right up until its final segment, when Fennell can't help but once again blow up everything she's built in favor of a finale that makes you feel a little dumb for being invested.
Yeah, 100%.
Fennell may be an exasperating filmmaker, but she's incapable of being boring. That is such a perfect encapsulation of this movie.
That's so great. I literally have a note that was like, the director, Fennell, she built a spectacular sandcastle and then pissed in it until it caved, but like not in a hot way.
No.
Where'd
Not
it
like
go?
subscribe to my OnlyFans.
No.
Hot. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That bathwater full of piss. Like
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
And no one's drinking that.
No one's drinking that.
People are drinking other bathwater.
Not even Barry Keoghan's drinking that. But he's the best, and I'd watch anything with him in it. It's just that he gets to be too much of a freak for 100% of the time.
I think Rosamund Pike and Barry Keoghan are both really good in this movie.
Yeah.
They're probably the best parts.
Totally.
And this isn't Keoghan's fault.
No.
His character is really inconsistent.
Yeah.
And this is the fault of the writing.
Yeah.
And we should say right now, actually. So, okay, as the time we're recording this movie will be on Prime in 2 days. So we saw it in the theaters at like the last possible moment.
Yeah.
So it'll be on Prime in 2 days. So watch it. We're going to spoil everything. We're going to go over it in pretty big detail. So if you don't want to hear it, go back, listen another time. Just watch it if you want to watch it. Because ultimately, I think this movie sucks, but I actually kind of like it. Like, I think that's my real feeling about it.
Totally.
And I was saying to you in the cab ride home, I was like, that this movie has so much quote unquote trash appeal to me.
Yes.
In that I can see myself rewatching it being like, I now know what this film is and I can enjoy it for what it is, which is
a fun romp,
an empty-headed, stupid film about nothing.
Yeah.
That's really well made
Yeah.
and fun to watch and just absurd.
I've had the cinematographer's back just broke carrying this film, dude.
Yeah.
They set up so
Yeah.
many incredible sets. Like, everything is visually just stunning. The first half, fucking great. I thought it was a totally different film until it wasn't.
I did not like the first half very
You
much
didn't
at
even
all.
enjoy
Yeah.
like the, oh my gosh, is it going to be a crazy murder thing? Or
well,
is it going to be a...
The Oxford scenes, like, they sounded like they were written by ChatGPT prompted to be like a 21-year-old. Like, some of this stuff was just like so...
Yeah.
It was just so silly. And then the thing is like, now that I know what happens at the end, I was just like, a lot of that was just so dumb.
Why was it
like,
forced?
Who cares? Okay, but speaking of the cinematography, one thing I hated, this film is shot in a square.
Yeah, man. As soon as like the
it's shot
cinema
like
theaters just became smaller, I was like, oh. But you know what? That's what makes me think of the nature of this film. It feels like it is made for fucking sexless generation that is, now ahead of us, who's probably going to consume it on TikTok, who's probably going to see it on their phones. And then so it's not even really about sex, you know what I mean? It's like Bottoms or any other kind of young generation film where it's like, it's about the raunchiness and the romp and the fucking poorly laid out shock value of it, which you and I can be like, okay, that was fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
But not be surprised by it.
No, I think there is here. I'm trying to articulate how I really feel about this. Like, there are certain things in it that I feel are like, they're deliberate provocations. There are scenes that are like supposed to be shocking and supposed to be like disturbing, I guess, or kind of gross or darkly funny.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm just kind of feel like I'm like, I don't know, I've seen crazier shit. Like, I've never, like, they really want you to feel scandalized in a way, and I'm like,
yeah,
I guess if you've seen like only 4 or 5 films in your
so
life,
it's for
but
a younger
like,
audience,
I'm a little,
right?
yeah, it's definitely aimed at a certain vibe. Like, for example, okay, I thought there was this weird tiny, and this is so minor, but it really dinged for me. There's like some small anachronisms in the movie, and one of them is the fact that, like, okay, it's set in 2006, right? And we were kids. We were growing. We were a little younger than Emerald Fennell is in her late 30s. We're in our early 30s. Sorry. But like, we're millennials, and this is very much a millennial made film, right? Yeah. But Jacob Elordi says to Oliver, he's like, oh, it's so cringe that you did this thing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no one used that back then. No one said that thing. No one said that the way that people say it now.
Sure.
Which I found to be like a little anachronistic. The other thing too, someone pointed out on something else that I listened to, Superbad was not released. Neither was the song Low. So why would you have...
Yeah, it was like, what is the timeline? I wasn't...
Yeah, like, and then... And so it starts in 2006. Yeah. And then Venetia says that he had only known Felix for 6 months. So at most, is it early 2007 maybe? Like, because it's still summer though. And at one point in Oxford, it's also summer. Sure. So when exactly is the timeline here? It's really... you
could even like forego all of that because it doesn't kind of pull you out of the film in any way. It's just the predictability of it is like, okay, I know what's going to...
But it's also like, it's these details that I'm just kind of like, I don't know, man. Like, why can't you just figure that out?
Yeah.
And those things are like dummies like me, like people who have nothing better to do with their lives notice them for sure. But it is kind of like, it's a little, like, I do notice those things. And I'm like, why is that? What do you mean?
What time is
like,
it?
What are we talking about here? Yeah. That's not to mention the overarching feeling about at the end of the film that I have, and the theme of this episode today is like, what the fuck is this film about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also, if it is like a younger audience watching this, they might see it as like an archaeological timestamp, as like, oh, apple bottom jeans, or whatever the
boots
fucking
with
song.
Fur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally yesterday I saw a TikTok with some kid being like, what the fuck is an apple bottom jeans?
Yeah.
So, you know what? They're not going to give
But
two
they
shits.
knew that the whole club was looking at her.
They do.
Like, to be fair. It's
not for an audience that has seen maybe 6 more films, but I sound so old and like just like a hater. But what I really want to say is that if it's going to shock you, it's because you've probably not seen enough stuff that it feels like, oh my God, is this
possibly
an exceptional fucking film? Because, like, okay, what else does it offer besides those empty shocks? It's like there's no mystery. The intrigue is taken away.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Stylistically, it's like, fantastic.
It did for fucking Graves what Call Me By Your Name did for Peaches, okay? I get it.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah. Enjoy your bathtub water. But
the weird thing, though, is that, like, okay, so the Call Me By Your Name comparison, I think, is apt only for about half of the movie. And then when it starts to get into the kind of like psychosexual thriller realm, that's when it starts to feel a little more talented. Mr. Ripley, maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's like the bottom's finally on top or whatever.
Whatever. But like what's his name? The guy who made like Call Me By Your Name. We did an episode on Suspiria about him. And I said this about him then, is like, that guy is like truly an artist. Like all of his movies, even Suspiria, which is a movie that got like middling reviews, you're just like, yeah, but at least that movie is like trying to say something and kind of succeeding. Mm-hmm. This movie, I think it falls short in like almost every measure. You can see the movie like grasp at interesting themes, but it's a lot like watching a 10-year-old kid try to dunk, and you're like, you're not even close. Like it's like, try it when you're a little taller, you know. And and I don't want to denigrate Emerald Fennell because like I don't think it's like a reflection on her or on her personally at all. Yeah. I think this movie is like it feels, and I'll compare it to like there's a couple of Christopher Nolan movies where I'm like, man, one more draft of that script and this would have been one of the best movies of all time. And this movie, I'm kind of like, if this movie had like another 6 months to kind of flesh out, you might have, and like flesh out, pare down, kind of like figure it out. Yeah. You might have had like one of the great films.
I feel like because she's so eager to explain it to the audience, that's what kills it.
100%. And the other thing that kills it for me, and we can get into talking a little bit about Promising Young Woman, because this is something that irks me about that movie. Promising Young Woman is a capital V, capital I, very important film about a very important subject that is fucking meaningless.
True.
And this movie also kind of has it, like, again, grasps at these themes that you're just kind of like, I get that these themes like seem important, but what are you actually saying about them? And those themes to me that like they're kind of pointing at are like the rich people are bad, and like what if you were friends with a person who was actually a sociopath? And I'm like, yeah, but you're not saying anything actually important about that.
No, and maybe it's more about like if you are like the unignorable pull of fame and money. Maybe it's that she called him a moth at the end.
Yes.
Because he's drawn to a candle so much, and that candle is really gold. And so even though he's not poor.
Well, class mobility.
It's just
like
a class mobility thing, right?
Into the ruling class.
But then what a fuck you to just regular working class people who are like, y'all gonna go fucking nutty if you see a gold brick. You'll shit yourself.
Yeah.
It's rude.
It is a little, it's like, and the thing is like the little bit I know about Emerald Fennell, like she went to Oxford, like she's not exactly come from like a total working class background.
Yeah.
This is not, I don't want to get into personal stuff.
I know.
But like, okay, let's talk a little bit about Promising Young Woman, because the movie was really hard to talk about when it came out. We didn't even know each other. We were just about to meet when that movie came out, and we have talked about it in the past. But when it came out, it was like, again, it was one of those movies. It's like, this is a very important subject told in a satirical, dark way. And don't you dare say anything bad about it, because it's about sexual assault, and that's very serious.
Right.
And I agree. However, that movie, when I first saw it, here's how I felt about it. The first like third of that movie, the way that they illustrate the patriarchy, for lack of a better term, in that film is like the most base way you could do it.
Sure.
Every man she encounters is secretly bad.
Yeah.
She gets catcalled by construction workers. Like it's stuff where you're just kind of like, could you not have made a little bit more of a creative push to make this a little more?
There's no nuance.
You know?
Yeah, there's nothing there.
And then as the movie went on, I liked it more. Bo Burnham definitely helped. I like Bo Burnham a lot, and I really thought Carey Mulligan was good. But now with like a couple of years removed from that film, and again, with the review I read earlier today, it clarified a bit of what I feel, where I'm just kind of like, why did she do anything in that movie? Like, what was the whole point of her essentially sacrificing herself? And what does that say? Because I think for the audience, you have this weird catharsis where she kind of gets quote unquote revenge. But when you think about it, you're like, well, put yourself in her shoes. She's dead.
Yeah.
There's nothing about this that is positive.
Yeah.
I just felt and the further away I get from that film, the more I'm just kind of like, I don't think it was really successful. Yeah. What did you think of it?
Because it's not this movie, this one, Saltburn, relies so much on shock that it's like, guys, do you get it? Do you get how shocking it is that what things that money can do to you?
But so does Promising Young Woman.
Yeah, but it does it with men. It's like, do you get it? Do you get how bad men are? But it's like,
there's a moment there's this moment, in this made me like roll my eyes so hard my fucking skull hurt. But in Promising Young Woman, there's this moment where I think in the very first scene with Adam Brody, where Cassie has been pretending to be drunk, and then she looks directly up at the camera, and as the viewer, you're supposed to be like, oh my god, it's supposed to blow your mind. Yeah. And to me, I was just kind of like, what? How would anyone be surprised at that? Because if you're seeing this movie, unless you like haven't seen a trailer, haven't heard anything about it, how could you not know that that's what's happening in that scene?
Yeah, I give the benefit of that to like just a younger audience. I'm just like, okay, there's probably 14-year-olds watching this or 16-year-olds watching this, and maybe it is.
They shouldn't. It's rated R.
And maybe it's more for like, someone going to college for the first time, whatever, right? But that's why I excuse some of these like just nothingness of Saltburn, where it's like, okay, there's someone who's brand new to probably shocking themes in movies, and that's the audience.
I think with both these movies, like the messages get undercut by kind of like
in your face.
They make this billboard out of being like, we're going to address important themes.
Yeah.
In a not great way.
Totally.
And like
it's
kind of like, I don't know, it just kind of makes it feel so like, well, I don't know. I've seen, especially to the whole like I think in one of the reviews I read, it might have been the Vulture one, but it might have been another one. I think I read like 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. Like someone said, like, if this idea had come about in like 2015, it would have been a little more revolutionary to talk about like, rich people are bad. But it's like, we've now had a million other great interpretations of that theme.
We've had Parasite, which is eat the rich, but then Barry Keoghan is like, I can eat out the rich. I see what he's going for.
Suck gold out of a bathtub drain. And they also brought up when they talked about Promising Young Woman, I think it was Alison Wilmore again.
Oh.
She said, she was like, if this movie had been released in April like it was intended to, but the pandemic fucked all of that up, it might have been more impactful. But do you know what was released before it instead?
No.
I May Destroy You.
Oh.
Which is a 3,000% better version of that story.
God. Yeah.
And if you're I don't know what word to use, but if you're like a serious viewer of TV and movies and you want to watch good stuff, you've probably seen them both if you're interested in that subject matter. Yeah. And I May Destroy You is just an unbelievable piece of art.
100%.
And Promising Young Woman just feels like a younger sister. And it's like
the superhero version of that type of movie.
And it feels like so much less impactful. Yeah. And even though I think I don't want to pretend, like at the time I was like, I think this is probably one of the better movies of the year, because I kind of thought that movie year was weak. Mm-hmm. But I have changed my thoughts on it a lot.
Yeah.
And only because like I've been forced to think about it because of Saltburn.
I haven't essentially given it much thought outside of when I first saw it. And I think the same is going to be true for Saltburn for me, where it's like, it's in my mind because we're talking about it now. We watched it last night. It's not something I want to revisit.
But like, I could see myself revisiting this, like, and being like, I know what this movie is exactly.
Right. Yeah.
It's a fun, silly ride, and it's got problems, but it's also got lots of really good stuff about it. And it's kind of, the thing is, like, Promising Young Woman is kind of like a difficult and distasteful subject matter to really be like, I'm going to casually throw this on or something while I'm like doing other shit or whatever. Saltburn is silly, and it's like, you can throw it on and not have, have to really engage with it that much.
If like the second half of the movie had like Subway Surfers playing at the bottom half of the screen, I'd be so fucking tapped in. I'd be like, yes, this is my people's. Like, it needed so much more to just keep your attention towards the end that any rise that was in the first half just was taken away from me a little bit. All in all, I still like it. Okay, fine. But I'm not going to be I'm not gonna pretend like it's, oh my God, it blew my dick off. Like, it's not. It's shocking in parts, but not unpredictable.
Nothing crazy.
Nothing
though. Like,
crazy.
I had heard things about it going in. I kind of knew exactly what the movie was going to be like, and it did kind of turn out that way.
Yeah.
So I was under no real illusions about it being like an important work of cinema.
Yep.
Like when the ending kind of rolled around, I was like, Jesus, fuck, this is starting to be like a shitty work of cinema, and it's really driving me insane.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe we should talk about that.
Let's do it.
About the plot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Oliver, played by Barry Keoghan, he goes to Oxford in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like you start with this like kind of interview format. It looks like he's being talked to by someone, and he's talking about Jacob Elordi's character named Felix. But he's like, oh, did I love him? I don't know. He's speculating on how he feels about this guy. And then you zip back to the past, and they're at Oxford. Barry Keoghan's character is like a scholarship kid. He's not a wealthy child. So automatically he's in the kind of like the working class of Oxford students.
Yeah.
Jacob Elordi's character Felix is like the hot guy on campus, like
right.
the most popular guy, and he's friends with another guy named Farley, who is half American,
adopted stepbrother,
yeah. half American. He's like the only person of color in the movie, which I think is deliberate.
Yeah.
He's paired with Ollie in like a tutorial thing, and he's like a real coaster, like just kind of a shitty student, but kind of a legacy student because his mother was a writer at Oxford.
Yeah.
So anyway, Ollie by chance like meets Jacob Elordi. Felix, I gotta use their actual names. Yeah. Ollie like by chance meets Felix and like kind of forces his way into this friend group.
Right.
And there's an important moment where there's this other character who looks just like fucking Bo Burnham, but he's a little skinny British guy who is like Ollie's kind of original friend, and then Ollie just totally dishes him for the popular kids, as is
every
routine.
trope. And yeah.
And I want to point out one thing, but we'll talk more about it later. Young English Bo Burnham, he tells Ollie, he's like, he's gonna get bored of you.
Yeah.
That's the last thing he says.
That's right.
That's it. And so Ollie and Felix become closer friends and blah, blah, blah. And then Ollie reveals that his dad had died during the exams and he couldn't go home and stuff. His mom was an alcoholic and all this thing. And Felix says, like, well, why don't you come to Saltburn? It's my family's gigantic fuck-off castle, as one person says. And so he's like, come to Saltburn for the summer. If you get bored of us, you can totally leave and stuff. But like, you can just hang out. Like, who cares? And everything. And of
There's
course,
60 bedrooms here.
Yeah.
Pick your choice. Yeah.
And Ollie goes basically after their first graduation, like first year. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know what it is. But, and like, it's kind of clear that Ollie has like a bit of an infatuation, like an innocent infatuation with Felix.
Yeah.
They go to Saltburn. Much lazy summer shit ensues. Like, they just kind of lounge around in the summer.
Yeah.
With Rosamund Pike and Richard E. Grant and Venetia, the sister and the parents, and then Pamela, played by Carey Mulligan, in a small role.
That sort of that discomfort that you feel being an outsider in a very, very like rich, like socialist club. Like, I thought that was nicely done, where they're talking about like the mother's a weirdo, the dad is just this eccentric guy who like, you know, is just always happy, and the siblings are just strange, and everyone's just kind of staring at him like he's a shiny new toy.
Yes. Farley is also there because that family is like paying for like his education.
Yeah.
He's kind of, as we find later, he's kind of like prostrating himself in order to continue being funded by them for various reasons. Pamela is there. Now, this is important because I want to talk about her. Like, one of the best aspects of the movie, which I thought was really well done, and I don't think there was enough exploration of it, was that, so Pamela is there, and she's a bit of a hanger-on. As Rosamund Pike calls her, she's a limpet. Yeah. And a limpet is a little creature that hangs onto a rock and it's impossible to get off, right? And they're trying to like usher her out of the house in various like funny, goofy, like passive aggressive ways. And what I really liked was like there's a part 2 where Farley, who is quite aggressive towards Ollie because he kind of is very suspicious of him. He also tells Ollie that he's like, you're just going to be like kind of a passing fad to the family. Yeah. And Ollie sees like his future in Pamela, in that he's like, oh, I could become like her. a person who stayed on too long. One excellent subtle piece of the storytelling is that instead of acting like a normal person, Ollie kind of symbolically helps dig Pamela's grave.
Yeah.
And
he manipulates.
He very much like crabs in a bucket fucking is like, well, when Pamela's gone, I gotta also like throw some dirt on this grave.
Because they can't be too many nomads in this place, right? They're just gonna usher them out the door.
And when they usher Pamela out, he talks some real shit about her to Rosamund Pike.
Classic.
Yeah. And then as time goes on, like this is the thing is like Barry Keane's character, Ollie, becomes like very inconsistent and starts to like have this like manipulative fucking psychosexual vibe with Venetia and with Farley and even hits on Rosamund Pike at a point.
Yeah.
And like he just changes. He turns into the guy from fucking Killing of a Sacred Deer almost.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That like uncomfortable creepiness.
He's just like 100% more confident than he's ever been in this movie.
Which we will get to why that's a big problem.
Yeah.
So he like has a small tryst with Venetia and stuff. And then eventually on his birthday, they plan to throw this huge birthday party. Felix is like, listen, your mom called on the phone. I picked it up. I talked to her. Why don't we go visit? And he surprised him by driving him out to Prescott, where he's from. He finds out that Ollie has lied. His family is a very middle to upper middle class British family. Lovely people.
Yeah.
They eat some spag bowl for his birthday. They make a cake. Obviously,
the dad is alive. Like nothing has happened.
Dad is alive. They're like lovely, just normal people who have raised this sociopath. And and then so big argument between Felix and Ollie. And Felix is like, Oliver, like I think you should leave after your birthday party because it's all planned.
Yeah.
I think you should go. This is the end of the summer anyway. Like go on. We forgot to mention there's the part where he drinks his jizzy bathwater, which is really important to the plot. And he gives period cunnilingus to Venetia.
So my guy, he's just like consuming this whole family's like bodily fluids and then somehow powering up as a result. Like, what is this Eternals Part 2?
You know what? Okay, so you know the part where he drinks the jizzy bathwater, which is
just
hottest scene ever.
Top cum.
Well, you know what part grossed me out more? Is like he like sticks his tongue down the drain.
Why does he do that?
And I was like, dude, this is all normal until you're gonna get like 5 different types of bacteria.
It's over.
And like COVID 20s through 27 just by doing this. It's like you are going to be the walking case for the next pandemic.
Absolutely.
For this.
Absolutely.
It's disgusting.
And you know what? If he had been a weirdo from the start of the film, the impact this scene would have had would be just far greater. It would be so much more fascinating if he wasn't, because he changed.
Let's talk about this then.
Yeah.
So we've established, and there's another part. Farley gets kicked out before the party. So now we've established Oliver has lied about his family. Mm-hmm. You're kind of getting the inkling that there's something not totally right about him.
Yeah.
He's manipulating Venetia a little bit. He calls himself a vampire. He's got this like he's clearly a manipulative kind of. He can turn on the scariness a little bit. He does it to Farley too.
Yeah.
The issue is he changes almost on a dime.
Yes.
And here's my thing about why the drinking the bathwater scene is so strange to me. Mm-hmm. If he's playing a role and he's not truly infatuated with Felix, which is, in my opinion, never clear that he is. Because let me say, they've never even kissed, touched, or had sex at this point. Yeah. And they don't. Spoiler alert. Why does he do stuff like that when he's alone?
That's what I'm saying.
That's the thing, right?
So it's he wants to embody his confidence and wants to be like him and wants to consume him, eat the rich, whatever you want to call it. But I
guess so.
But he's doing it through sexual ways, that is the only kind of shock. But
it's never clear to me that he's actually truly infatuated with Felix. And then when you find out what happens in the end, it seems like he wasn't. It seems like he was just manipulating the whole time. So it begs the question: why would he act that way when no one is watching? Because even when he fucks the grave, Venetia says, "I saw you." It's you could forgive that because it's like maybe he knew she was there. Maybe he was doing it for her and fucking her benefit. Yeah. But when he's doing stuff alone, you're just kind of like, why would you act that way if you're just manipulating your way into this situation? And his character, like we said, it just flips, and you're just kind of like, what? Like,
who knows what goes on in a psycho's mind though? Like, what if he's doing it to convince himself that I am infatuated, but like this
Possibly.
is coming from a place of love, and now it's turned salty because because he's been betrayed by his quote unquote friend Felix, who's like, you gotta leave after this stupid party. You can't be in this family. You can't be one of us. You're a liar. And he's like, you know what? Money is better than cum. So
yeah, but okay, but like the thing is that the movie it kind of invalidates a lot of those theories because it makes it seem like he planned this all from the start.
Yeah.
And that's the problem is like everything, when you look at the way the movie explains it, which is why it would have been better if they had left it a lot more vague.
Definitely.
Is it just seems like he planned this all from the beginning.
And so he's a mastermind?
Yeah, but then there's a problem with that though too. If he's such a fucking social manipulator, why does he need to puncture Felix's bike tire in order to manufacture this coincidence so that they would chat at Oxford when he could just do what normal people do? Not like making friends in university can be hard, but it's also not that hard.
Yeah.
Like you kind of fall into friend groups and it's really not that, if you're a master manipulator of social circumstances, it's not that hard to just show up at a party and then start chatting with this guy and
I
turn
think
it
he
on.
needed Felix's character to be in debt to him and not in like a financial way. He like gives him his bike in a moment of like accidents, and he's like, "Oh, I'll be there for you. Like, I'll listen to you."
Okay, I understand. Like, I get that. But let me.
What a reach, right?
But
like, we don't get
here,
any of this.
When like he punctures the bike tire, and it's like, how does he know Felix is just gonna wait around?
Yeah, dude.
Like, and also. When it comes down to like real life stuff, it's like, what is Felix doing? He's just like there, that scene where they actually meet.
Yeah.
Jacob Elordi is like sitting against a tree, looking at his bike like he's never seen a bike in his life. And I'm just, and like, then he's like, oh, I'm already late for this class. It's like, then why aren't you walking there with your bike?
And he's been there for 10 minutes or something like that, right? Like, who waits around?
It's such a weird scene that it's this kind of like, surely there's got to be a better way of explaining how they meet, and a more interesting or more a way that hides the artifice of it a little bit better. Totally. And in the moment when you watch that scene at the beginning of the movie, you're just kind of like, oh, okay, fine. But when you learn later that this is all manufactured, you're like, everything starts to feel really disjointed and
But it's
weird.
Also disingenuous. It's not even done in like a clever way.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
Anything.
Yeah. So okay, birthday party, huge birthday party, Midsummer Night's Dream. It's clearly inspired by Romeo plus Juliet by Baz Luhrmann.
Right.
There's like all sorts of scenes. It's like, it's debaucherous and wild and crazy.
Yeah.
Ollie follows Felix into the maze, which is on the grounds, to talk to him. They have an argument, and then Ollie is like, oh, I guess I'll go. He gives him a bottle of wine, which is important. Ollie is like, oh, I guess I'll leave tomorrow. They have a falling out. Ollie goes back home. In the morning, he wakes up to the frantic household. Everyone is looking for Felix. They don't know where he is.
Mm-hmm.
He is dead in the maze.
Yeah.
And he's dead.
Yeah.
Now Felix is gone. Later, so they have a funeral for all that kind of stuff. And then the family is grieving. And then Rosamund Pike, who's quite close to Oliver, is like, you can't leave here. We have to keep you here.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually Venetia kind of like suspects that Ollie is just a fucking moth, as she calls him.
Mm-hmm.
Then she commits suicide, ostensibly, right? And then it's just Oliver is like basically taken over the child role of this family.
Yeah.
This is where it's starting to get very long, the movie. Rosamund Pike won't let him go, but then Richard E. Grant is like, how much? I'll pay you money to let you go. And he pays him and he leaves.
Yeah.
Forward many years, I don't know how many, Rosamund Pike runs into him at a coffee shop and says, come back to Saltburn, come live with Saltburn. And then it cuts to, they're like together and she's leaving him Saltburn in her will.
Yeah,
and she's on
a ventilator.
She's on an intubation or a ventilator, dying. And he's been confessing to her on her deathbed.
Mm-hmm.
And then he rips out her intubation tube and kills her. And then dances naked through the house.
Yeah.
Finn, cut to black.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after Felix dies, 3 other people die. Him, his sister, his mother, and the father dies of natural causes. The cops, not once, are like, hey, who's this guy who owns this property? Not,
Yeah, so there's a couple things. Like, the other one too, which reminds me a lot of the bike scene is like, okay, I want to ask you, What happened to Venetia, in your opinion? Because I don't think it's clear.
What do you mean? Like he killed her?
He killed her. That's what you think?
I don't know if she maybe attempted it and then kind of got out of it, but he definitely probably... And she's been drinking. So
Yes.
it's easy to kind of fall asleep in the tub when you're distraught over a death and there's grief.
Because it makes it seem like a suicide, but then...
It's probably very obviously a murder.
Yeah, sorry. At the end of this movie, Ollie confesses that he basically... Everything we've seen, he's basically set up from the beginning. But with the Venetia one, it's never truly... I don't think it was very clear whether he killed her or he just put these razor blades near her. But the way that it's shot, it seems like he just like put these razor blades, and then Venetia... She just looked over and was like, oh, yeah, maybe I will kill myself. Like, it's so weird. It's not clear.
I don't know. I'm not sure because, like, at one point the razor blades are on the right side of the bathtub, and in another shot they're on the left. Unless she's left-handed, I don't know why she would reach for the bat.
I mean, it doesn't really matter.
So,
the only shot shows him putting them on the side of the bathtub.
Yeah, so I think either way he enabled it.
How, again, much like how can he trust that Felix will sit around with his bike? How can he trust that Venetia is just going to be herself. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, killing myself would be a good idea right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's this point where Ollie, who's confessing to Rosamund Pike who cannot hear him, he's like, what truly, he's like, all of these unfortunate accidents that have befallen your family, what truly is an accident? And I just wish they had left it there because he proceeds to explain everything.
And then 45 minutes go by and it's just like...
And then you're just like, oh, I feel dumb. Why did I ever trust this movie?
Why?
And like... I just wish they had left it vague, and it would be, like I said, it would have been a 10 to 15% better film.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely.
Had other problems, but, like, it would have been better because, like, at the end, you're just kind of like, what?
You
like,
get spoon-fed every single thing. So it's...
I remember in one episode, we talked about Sherlock.
Mm-hmm.
You remember what I said about Sherlock? How it never gives you the opportunity to understand what's happening yourself.
It just explains.
And it just tells you what happened. And it's just like, isn't he brilliant? And it's like, well, I wouldn't have known that because of the magic of cinema. And like, and it's like, this movie sort of does a similar thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And even though on the flip side of that, when Farley gets kicked out, they're like, oh, he tried to sell this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh yeah, I assume Ollie set him up. Like I clocked that immediately.
Right.
But I didn't clock that it's like, oh, Ollie's done everything. So then it's like the fact that he has done everything is kind of like, it would be better to be left with the question of like, well, Ollie did fuck over Farley. Mm-hmm. What else could he have done instead of just telling us, right?
Well, the intrigue is like taken away from you very early on. And then you're just kind of sitting there listening to a lecture basically of something that you've already heard, and you're like, I can't wait for the fucking bell to ring. Like, I'm so it's I already know what to expect.
It's really annoying. Like I don't know. It's a little bit it seems dumb, but it's like it's a little bit insulting. It's like, yeah, we get it. We can follow along.
That's why I'm saying, like, it would not make me want to watch it a second time, even if it's beautiful or even if it's like something that's where I'm like, okay.
I think to me,
I know what to expect.
I think to me, the reason why I could watch it a second time is like if I rewatched it, I could be like, and I know that the twist, quote unquote, is coming. And I can fully ignore that part of the film. Right. Like, I can fully clock out at that point because, like, I think it's so dumb, you know? Yeah, like, I don't know. It's a lot of the twists, as I say, just seem kind of like they're telegraphed and a little bit like, I don't know. They just don't seem that interesting. Like, when he drives to... So, I want to talk a little bit, like, stuff about the writing that I found like really frustrating. The film kind of proceeds as normal, but in my opinion, there's not a lot of like propulsion to the script itself. No. Like there's not a lot of like, why does this happen? This is why. Why does this happen? This is why. It's not like, it doesn't feel like it's dramatically pushing towards a thing ever. Right. And then when it gets to around the 90-minute mark or whatever, it's finally like, oh shit, we need a thing. And the thing is, Felix is like, let's go meet your parents. Yeah. And it's like, it just happens. Yep. And then you find out Ollie lied and you're just kind of like, well, I guess I could have seen that. Totally. And then it also feels similar, even though it's explained later that Ollie caused Felix's death. It kind of seems like that when Felix dies too. You're just like, oh, here's another thing that would happen. After that, it's like, why do you need more and more and more examples of the same thing? We get that he's a psychopath. He'll do psycho things. The latter third of the film feels really plotty, and the first 2/3 don't. And so it's like, it's so weird that way.
I know the pacing and the editing and all of that, man, totally right. Like if it could have done with 3 more eyes to kind of accelerated that on. To its credit, I think one of the things it does really good is just the dialogues. Like for Rosamund Pike, her character is, I feel like, so perfectly fleshed out. Her motivations I never question. I'm like,
it's the most inspired character.
Tight. Yeah. And same for the father, until one moment where I'm like, so is he, I guess it's a moment of shock for him when he finds his dead son and he's like, oh, come on, our son will get you warmed up. And then he's trying to move his body.
Shock.
He's
like,
in shock.
I see
I understand.
That, yeah.
But otherwise, he's like just this crazy, kooky dad.
Can I suggest what one of the big problems is? And this has nothing to do with their performance. Farley.
Yeah.
Farley is an underdeveloped character.
Oh my God, like straight out of Riverdale or something.
And the problem, though, is that Farley actually gets a lot of screen time. And I quite like that performer. I forget his name. Yeah, I quite like him, and I think he's good in that role. Like, he's kind of like menacing in that Mean Girls-esque type way, where it's like low stakes menacing.
Yeah.
And he's like underhandedly insulting and things like that, and I like that. Also, he's just like super attractive and like a lovely talker.
Yeah. Like,
he's great. But because of his character, weirdly, Jacob Elordi, Felix, gets like not a lot of time to actually develop.
Isn't he supposed to be the main guy?
I thought this was going to be like
just him.
A two-hander. The way Call Me by Your Name is like you spend so much time with Army the cool dude Hammer. You spend so much time with him that you like get a real sense of the attraction and the obsession there. But like Jacob Elordi, like in lots of ways, because you have to contend with Farley, you have to contend with Venetia. He feels relegated to like almost the same amount of screen time. Yeah. Especially in the latter half of the film.
Totally.
It's like in Oxford, obviously, he's like he's like a character who looms very large for Ollie. But then as more characters are introduced, he starts to get relegated when really he should be the second most important character. And
I wonder if that's even intentional then, because at first his attraction is towards wanting a beautiful friend. Someone who's already up there in social mobility. Like he's a guy he can be with and make himself look good because he's in Oxford with this tall guy.
Drink his bathwater.
No. Even before that, right? Like, and then once he comes to the,
I think that was what he wanted from the beginning, babe.
What he wanted. Yeah. He comes to the party. To the Saltburn mansion, and he's like, I mean, I could give or take this guy. Like, it's not a big loss for me anymore. In his mind, maybe it's like, oh, I love Felix, or I want his friendship.
Maybe.
But now he wants Venetia. Now he wants the bedroom. Now he wants the castle. Like, there's greater gains to be had.
That's I don't think that's ever clear. To me, I don't think it was ever clearly established.
Not in the in the watch.
What does he want? Like, does he want Felix?
Totally.
Does he want Saltburn literally?
Yeah.
Or does he just want to be part of the ruling class?
Right.
Like, it's I just don't think it's ever very clear, you know? And also, the thing I question is, like, if he ever wanted Felix at all, why does he mastermind the killing of his entire family, including Felix?
Yeah.
And if he wants Saltburn, why does he want it just to himself if he can't have Felix or something like that?
So it's not about friendship or anything, or maybe he can.
And also, if he wants to be part of the ruling class, why does he want to do it without people who he knows?
I wonder, because like it is established early on that he doesn't have friends, and it's also established early on that when they do invite 200 people to Oliver's birthday party, they're singing him a birthday song, and no one knows his name.
Yeah,
that is fantastic.
Yeah.
That was great, and his face drops, so he knows he can still have all of this without these fucking people.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's, in hindsight, I'm like, okay, he's just crazy, full stop.
But he's
not crazy with motivation.
He's motivated by a thing that we see as being like entirely insipid and vapid.
Yes.
Like you're it's like you want this very stupid thing.
Like a child.
Yeah.
He doesn't know why.
Yeah.
Or he doesn't care why. He's like, but I want it. So I think that's why, like, I know we kind of hinted on, but what does it say about the working class? Like, are you trying to make them look a fool? Maybe he's not really working class, right? In his mind, he's built up this fucking story. He's
like
pretty
still
rich.
Pretty well off.
Yeah. I mean, he's affording, probably paying for tuition at
No, he's
Oxford.
got a scholarship.
Oh, he got
but like clearly when you pull up to his house with
Yeah,
Felix,
it's like two stories.
It's pretty nice,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah.
Maybe there's more depth, but the problem is that none of this you're allowed to discover, and none of this is shown to you, and then it's over-explained to death at the end.
I don't
and
think
it's
there is more depth though, right? I don't like. It feels very shallow.
Like I feel like I'm reaching just to give myself.
So there's this. I want to talk a little bit about, speaking of depth. I thought there was this really interesting. Okay, this is my own kind of analysis of the themes of the movie through the music. Right, set in 2006. The music, I think the music selections in this movie are terrible. Not because the songs are bad, because I actually happen to kind of like know and like all of the music in this movie.
Big fan of Apple Bottoms.
It's because they seem like someone with bad taste picked them.
Yeah,
like
or
someone with the most basic shitty millennial taste.
Yeah.
But it's kind of done on purpose. And every review that I read, they pointed out that there's like a montage set to MGMT's Time to Pretend, which is a very pointed song title for this film.
Right.
However, they were like, lots of people were like, oh, this montage is really good. And I was like, is it? Or the weird thing about the montage was I was like, that montage seems to be embracing the lame, stupid music video shitty culture that type of music was embracing at that time too.
Yeah.
And it seems to be like celebrating it through this music, even though it's kind of like, it just seems thoughtless. Just like a lot of that like really kind of like lame, pointless indie rock feels. It just feels empty and dumb. And I'm like, this doesn't fucking mean anything. This song, I want to be clear. I like MGMT. I don't think a lot of that early music was that great, but they are like really talented. But a lot of that stuff that MGMT got popular with was like their most shitty, vapid, dumb stuff. and most people who became like fans of them were also fans of other shitty, stupid, vapid, dumb indie bands.
Right.
This montage just seemed like it was like celebrating that, and I was like, it feels stupid to me. Like, I don't know.
Because it makes you feel stupid. It's like, do you get it? There's going to be a clever thing that's about that, and it never does. And then it's over-explained, and it's pretty dumb.
My hope was that I'm like, are they commenting on this feeling ironically? But it doesn't feel that way.
You know why? Because you and I talked offline, and you had a perfect word for it, and it's try hard.
Yeah.
A lot of this, it's like trying so hard to explain to you that there's humor and irony in psychopathy and wanting money and love and fame. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But we don't get to see any of that.
And it's also kind of like
in a clever way.
It's with the like eat the rich and like one of your friends is a sociopath kind of genre.
Yeah.
It's the shallowness is in the fact that it's kind of like, have you ever considered that rich people might be vapid? And it's like, yes.
You know
I've
what?
been using the term vapid a lot. I'm sorry, but it's kind of the perfect word.
I think so.
And then with like the sociopath thing, it's like, what if some guy you knew was a sociopath? And I'd be like, well, it would be bad. Like, I don't know. What do you want to? What the fuck do you want from me? Of course it would be.
Right.
But it's like they would probably try to manipulate you, kill your family, and take your home.
There's also like no one to love or hate in this movie. Like, as an audience, I'm not like particularly sad when anyone dies.
Well, the part where he's fucking the grave is like set to this like choral music
sure.
that's like really like
and then
dour,
silence.
and then it's silent. And like in the theater, I don't know if you felt it, but the tension was like half the audience was like, is this supposed to be funny? I don't know if I should laugh right now. And then like the other half was like, oh, it is sad. That's what I would do.
It's I 100% saw that shit coming from a fucking mile away.
Yeah.
When he was even standing over it just crying, I was like, is he gonna fuck this grave?
But it's the thing is like it is funny. It is darkly funny.
It is funny.
But it's weirdly like not it's not made and it's not made clear enough to be like,
hey
okay,
guys,
this is funny.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know.
What is it? What is the genre that this movie's? Is it black comedy?
Another problem. I couldn't tell you. Like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Is it if it's satire, it's not satirical enough?
No.
Is it if it's a black comedy, it's not funny enough, even though there are very funny parts?
And we don't see it.
If it's a love story, there's literally no love. I don't know.
Yeah.
It shallow. Just shallow.
Yeah.
Just a wading pool of a film. Yeah. But you know what?
But it's meant to be
Fun.
a fucking romp. I think.
Yeah, a little.
And it is.
Yeah.
And like at the end of the day, like you exactly like you said, can just throw it on and watch it and be like, oh, geez, and call it a day.
Yeah. And you know what? I will make a prediction.
Mm-hmm.
I think this movie will have, in a couple of years, I think this movie will have like a critical reassessment. And people will be like, this movie is good. Once we've all, like me, once we've all accepted that it is what it is, I think people will be like, this movie is actually good.
Because there might be some nuances that like we as an audience has to fucking try so hard to understand.
Maybe.
Which, look, movies should make you think. And I love that. That's great. It shouldn't be... And I think that's my frustration is that this one fucking holds your hand through every single scene.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not asking for it to be like a puzzle box.
No.
I'm just like
leave something to the imagination for us.
But it feels like for a lot of the movie it's promising something with big themes to chew on, and then it doesn't even allow you to chew. You know, and that's kind of it. Yeah.
That's
so
it.
Saltburn, baby.
I just wanted to slurp up some of the and nothing was left for me.
Yeah.
No bathwater for free.
It's just like drink this dirty bathwater. You'd have to just stick your tongue down the drain to get it.
Hey, while we're on the topic, I got a top 5.
Hell yeah.
I got a top 5 movie graves that I would stick my D in.
Yeah? Okay.
Number 5, Lord of the Rings.
Whose? Lots of people died.
No, just like these are graves of movies.
Babe.
Their movies are... I can't put a name to the...
Lots of people died in the War of the Ring, and I wish you'd show some respect to them.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also lots of non-people like elves and dwarves.
They're people too.
Even though the dwarves are greedy and delve too deep.
That is
and they just sit
like
there.
My dick.
They just sit in their mountain halls. I won't have you laugh about this, okay?
Sorry. But no, not one singular person, but just generally, if a film was laid down beneath my feet, I would pummel it into the ground.
If you're going to do this, all right,
Sorry,
can you please provide me with photoshopped images of Barry Keoghan fucking the DVD case of every one of these films?
That's exactly
please.
it.
I will post it on Instagram.
Okay, you know what? That's what this caption is going to be.
Go on.
Number 4, Darkest Hour. What a phenomenal...
Weird one. Yeah.
Because I just feel like that movie made me feel so cozy and so... And I saw it on a plane, so maybe that has something to do with it. But I do feel very like excited and like, ooh.
Do you think after they wrapped filming that, they had a funeral for Gary Oldman's huge rubber suit that he wore to be Winston Churchill? And it's just like a rubbery suit.
I have it in my bedroom. Where do you think I'm sticking your...
Yeah, you wear it at night. Yeah,
that's right.
We didn't have to tell the viewers that, though.
I'm sorry, guys. You know too much. Number 3, Goodfellas. All of them.
Yeah. Why not?
All of them. They would all get, Joe Pesci's mom, number 1. She's going to get it. Number 2, and this is a recent revelation for me, Oscar Wilde's Citizen Kane.
Oscar Wilde? It's better be recent considering his name's not Oscar.
Orson Welles. I've been drinking. Okay. Yeah. It's because it's Oscar worthy.
Oscar Welles.
Straight in the cane.
Straight in the Citizen.
Straight in the Citizen, baby. Yeah. Citizen D. And number 1 movie grave that I would stick my D in is Shrek. Undisputed.
Yeah, well, that's fucking... I didn't need to hear that.
What do you mean?
I could have guessed that.
Well, yes, of course.
Yeah.
It's going to play at our wedding. You just know it. Top 5.
Top 5, baby.
Saltburn.
Yeah, watch it. It's going to be on Prime after this
definitely
episode.
Watch it. Definitely.
By the time this episode comes out, which I don't know when it's going to come out, it will have been on Prime. Watch it. It is a good time.
Yeah.
It's dumb as fuck.
It's the perfect holiday film. Watch it with your parents.
I say that with joy. It's dumb as fuck.
Yeah.
But, sometimes those movies are good. We've made an entire podcast based on them.
I know. Revel in it. It's been the low ceiling.
It's been the low ceiling. I've been John.
And I'm free. Just keep your D in your pants, guys.
Keep your D's clean.
Keep your
this
mouths
holiday
washed.
Season.
All right.
Drain your bathtub and make sure
Bear Keoghan's not there.
Make sure every last drop goes straight down the drain.
Jesus Christ.
Or else someone's going to steal your DNA and do a 23andMe.
And that's what the security breach is all about.
Yeah. Change your passwords, everybody. All right. Thank you for listening.